Hi everyone, it's really great to welcome you to our webinar. My name's Andrew Nethsingha and I'm Director of Music here at St John's. And we're going to have contributions during this session from recent alumni and from four current choral scholars. So we've got Ali here. I don't think you can see them at the moment, but Ali is a second year doing geography. And we've got Richard, who's just graduating this week with a first in MML, which is modern languages. And we've got James, who has been playing the organ for us for the last 4 years, and Louis, who read music and has stayed on for a couple of extra years in the choir. So they can tell you their different experiences. And we've also got Dr Victoria Harvey, who there you can see on the screen. And Victoria is our admissions tutor, so she will tell you some stuff later on in the session. Here in St John's, we have sort of three vocal ensembles. We have an entirely mixed voice student choir, which is called St John's Voices, and they're really fantastic. They sing evensong on Mondays. We have an all-female a cappella choir called Aquila, which has just been going for about 3 years. Really wonderful, run by Joanna Forbes-Strange. And the choir which I run is a more sort of active choir than the other two, a busier choir, should we say. So our choir sings 7 services every week. So that's evensong every day at 6:30 every day except Monday. And we also sing a Eucharist on Sunday mornings. That's just during the short university terms. And we rehearse for an hour before each of those services. And the top line in our choir is sung by the trebles, the boy trebles. They all attend St John's College School. And the alto tenor bass parts are sung by students. So we usually have 4 altos, 5 tenors and 7 basses in the choir at any given time. And if we're thinking now about people who might start at university in 2022, we will have vacancies in all of the voice parts at that stage. Some people think that the commitment at St John's is going to be a very big one, and there wouldn't be enough time to do other things. Well, actually, we find that people in the choir, they really welcome the regular daily schedule of a bit of time in chapel towards the end of each day, and it helps them to structure their lives, I think, which is very useful after you leave school and you don't have the regularity of so many lessons each day. So actually, the people who sing in the choir manage to do incredibly well academically. We've had lots of results today, in fact, and 2/3 of the people in the choir so far have got firsts, which is absolutely amazing, and much better than the university as a whole, I think. And also, they managed to do loads of extracurricular stuff. So Louis does lots of football, and we have people doing theatre directing or other kinds of instrumental music. Or well, Richard, who you'll meet later, he's been an entrant for the Eurovision Song Contest. So there's time for all sorts of things. When we're singing in our services, we have a pretty huge repertoire covering all periods, really, and that includes termly Bach cantatas with wonderful instrumentalists, some of whom are in groups like the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment. And when we do that kind of thing, I mean, it's really amazing having the whole chapel absolutely packed and singing Bach's music in a liturgical context, just like he would have done in services. And all the soloists on those occasions are people who are members of the choir. So it's an amazing opportunity to sing that great music with some of the best instrumentalists in the land. And we, as I say, we sing music of all periods and right up to the present day. So it includes commissioning a lot of new music for sometimes just for choir or choir and organ, and sometimes more exotic combinations like choir and double bass, or we had a piece for choir and marimba once, though Caroline, who's sitting next to me, she banned me from ever performing the piece again because the instrument fell apart in the car park afterwards, which was embarrassing. Choir and electronics sometimes, so it's fun doing these new things. And the choir has made well over 100 commercial recordings, we usually record about 2 albums each year, and all sorts of different repertoire, and you can listen on Spotify if you're interested. Our most recent one was, well, you can see the thing just behind me. That's the cover of the disc, called Magnificat 2. And they get a lot of very nice comments in journals around the world. And indeed, we perform around the world, because we have now and again concert tours, well, very frequently in Europe, and now and again in the USA and the Far East, occasionally Australia, etc. As well as that, lots of regular broadcasts on the BBC and on stations in other countries. So I thought, while we're talking about other countries, I thought you might like to hear a little snippet from one of our concerts. This is a little piece by Jonathan Dove, and it's taken from a concert, gosh, I can't remember when, 2017 maybe. I think Louis was singing in this. So it's us performing in Budapest with a fantastic organist, Thomas Trotter. Well, I hope you enjoyed hearing that little bit of one of our concerts. I always love Decembers, the week before Christmas, we're often in some of these great European capitals, maybe in Berlin or Amsterdam, and people absolutely love hearing British choirs at that time. So it's wonderful to sing Christmas music and other music to absolutely full houses in some of the best concert halls in the world. Now, one thing I forgot to say to you a little earlier was do please write questions in the chat, because in a few minutes we'll have a question and answer session, and it'd be great to have lots of questions from you at that stage. I think it's really important for me that we should have a very happy, mutually supportive atmosphere amongst the singers. That's been particularly important in this last year. So I think that warm, friendly atmosphere is one of the aspects of the choir that I'm most proud of and most keen to maintain. I should also let you know about the lower voices of the choir. They call themselves the gents, and they do a lot of additional singing on their own, singing close harmony music or pop song arrangements, as well as sacred repertoire. So they have lots of fun singing at functions and concerts and various glamorous occasions, and it's also quite lucrative. I mean, really quite lucrative for them, which is nice. Quite a lot of our singers go on to prestigious musical careers, maybe as singers or composers or conductors. But there are all sorts of other professions that our choir members go on to. Some are doctors, some are teachers, accountancy, consultancy, theatre directors, the civil service, law, arts management, all sorts of things. So don't think I should only come to St John's if I want to be a professional musician. We have great singing teachers here. David Lowe has been teaching here for a very long time and is absolutely fantastic. And he teaches many of our singers, but we engage several other teachers as well. So there's, you can all find a teacher to suit you. I think when you're choosing which choir to apply to, it's really important to have a good listen to the sound worlds of the different choirs and see which one really appeals to you. I suppose, it's hard to say in just a few words, but at St John's, we aim for a warm, rounded sound. And I like it to be the case that the singers feel they have a kind of freedom to sing in an uninhibited way, rather than being, shall we say, straight-jacketed into conformity. And I think that leads to a healthy way of singing, which in turn means that for those who do want to go on and be professional soloists, actually they can go smoothly into that world without having to sort of unlearn lots of bad choral habits, as it were. So we've had loads of famous names in the choir in the past, people like Iestyn Davis and Alan Clayton, Simon Keenlyside. These were all choral scholars here in the past, and now you find them on stage, whether singing at the Met in New York or maybe the Royal Opera House in London. And I think when choosing your choir, it's also really important to sort of pick the people and the atmospheres which you really warm to, whether it's the buildings or the director or the friendliness of individual members of the choir who you've met. Most of our choral scholars are indeed students here at St John's. They do their academic studies here at St John's, but I'm also extremely pleased to have students from other colleges singing in the choir here, and we have several from other colleges at the moment. So it's always great to meet anyone who's interested in joining the choir. Please never feel that you're wasting my time. It's always a pleasure to spend time with people who might be interested. So do please get in touch, whatever your standard of singing. It's very nice to meet in person if we can, but I'm also very happy to meet via Zoom. If we do meet via Zoom, then I might ask you whether you could send perhaps a video of you singing a solo song in advance, if that's convenient. I can also try to arrange for you to meet some individual members of the choir so that you can hear their side of the story without me listening. And if you happen to be free before July the 10th, I might be able to arrange for you to attend one of our choral services here. But I'm equally happy to meet people later in July if that's better for you, or indeed in August or September. So feel free to be in touch when you want to. So just one other reminder. I see we've got a couple of questions in the chat, which I'll come to in a little while. But do please put some other ones in if they occur to you in the next few minutes. But I think for now that's enough talking from me, and I'm going to hand you over to Richard, who is one of our altos.
Hi everyone. As Andrew said, I'm Richard Decker. I'm one of the altos in the choir, and I'll be graduating in 2 days' time from St John's, having spent the past 4 years studying MMLL, which is a mouthful, essentially, modern languages with linguistics, specifically Italian and French. So I applied while I was at a state school in Orpington, in North Kent. So I hadn't really sung many evensong services before. I'd mainly done sort of Eucharists and Matins. And so I didn't really know exactly what I was coming into, but I knew I wanted to sing. I knew I wanted to choir with a fairly high commitment. And the thing that made John's really stand out to me, well, there were two aspects. The first was, as Andrew has already mentioned, the idea that we're really encouraged to sing out as if we are soloists. That really, really appealed to me. But also, Andrew himself, I found so welcoming. He, was very happy to listen to me sing, give me advice on, the application process, which was so helpful. And I do think that provided a key part in my decision to choose John's as my college. When I arrived, I was a bit worried about not studying music, because the choir commitment is big. And I thought, well, if I study music, that gives me the theory alongside what I'm singing. Would that be of help? But I honestly think it's quite freeing to study a subject other than music, because then I would, finish work at about 4:30, start warming up for choir, ready to rehearse at 5:15. And it was something completely different. It was something really fun that I was able to do outside of my degree. At the same time, I've been very fortunate enough to be able to combine the choir with my languages degree. And so my dissertation for finals was actually based on something that I observed while I was singing, that I found certain consonants quite hard to sing. So I researched it, and it's something that I would love to go on to research later. So I found that choir is not just this separate entity, but actually it can be used to further your time at Cambridge academically and of course socially as well. The gents are, and the choir in general they're not just a group of friends, it's a complete family to me. And I wouldn't have done my 4 years here in Cambridge without the choir. I think the most striking and possibly scary thing for many prospective applicants, and certainly for myself when I was applying, is the heavy commitment of 7 services a week. But I found that, and Andrew suggested this earlier, I found that more beneficial and more manageable than I think I would have done with, say, 4 services a week, because it created this sense of regularity. It made me go, right, okay, I'm going to stop working now. I'm going to give myself a break. I'm going to start warming up my voice, and I'm going to go and sing for a couple of hours. And it was wonderful. It was nice to just take a complete chill, relax from my degree and go and sing and do something I enjoyed. And at the same time, you do have plenty of time to do things other than choir and degree. It's not sort of get up, eat, work, sing, sleep, repeat. So I play a bit of oboe. I'm by no means very good at all, but I've had the opportunity to play in quite a few orchestras in Cambridge. I also have taken up running, and I try to go running every day, and I have time for all that stuff. As Andrew mentioned, I also have time to invest in the Eurovision Song Contest, but I don't necessarily recommend you do that. But you will have plenty of time to do whatever you want alongside. It's also it was very cool for me to be able to bring in choir, not just to my degree, but to my everyday life. Obviously, singing 7 services a week, you do have to stay on top of things. You do have to have a good level of organisation. And actually, that's just very useful for life in the future. I'm now coming out of Cambridge being far more organized than I was before. And I can't really attribute that to the degree, but I definitely can to the choir. And in fact, as part of my degree, I had to go on a year abroad last year, and I directed a choir in Florence as my job for that. And I was able to bring so much of the organizational skills I'd learned from Andrew and from the other gents to that choir, and I found it so, so helpful. From a musical perspective, being a part of St. John's has just been phenomenal. The very first piece I sang in the chapel was Parry's Blessed Pair of Sirens at my matriculation service. And it was just such a magical feeling seeing all my friends for the next 4 years sat there listening to us all sing and make this glorious sound. And I'll never forget the thrill of the Accelerando at the end to live with him as it grows into this amazing climax. It was just so special. And I felt very, very privileged to then take that to my choir in Florence and be able to teach the things that I'd learnt at St. John's to other people. And it's this idea of passing it forward. I'm not just getting something out of it for myself, but I'm enjoying the choir so other people can benefit from it too. So other people can pray or just chill at an evensong and listen to the music. There's something really, really rewarding about that. And I think John's does that expertly. So in conclusion, if you want to have a go at singing at John's, go for it. You've got nothing to lose by going to sing to Andrew. He is the loveliest, most welcoming person, and he honestly would love to hear you sing. It's been the best 4 years of my life, without a shadow of a doubt, even with the restrictions over the past year. And the gents and the whole choir have been such a great family to me. I couldn't imagine my time at Cambridge without the choir. I believe now we are going to hear a bit from our College Music Society president about some other musical opportunities you have in the college outside of the choir.
Hi, my name is Aïda. I'm a third-year music student and a pianist. I'm the current president of the St. John's College Music Society. I just wanted to tell you a bit more about the opportunities you have for music making in college. There are numerous, and I'll start with the Music Society because I think it's a great way to meet like-minded people and just get involved in pre-existing concert series. We have at least 2 concert series that I can think of right now that are more or less regular. The Lunchtime Concert Series that happens every Thursday, which is a very informal place to just try out anything from a 2-minute piece to a full recital. And also the Chapel Lates series that is generally more centered around a cappella choral works, for which Gopal, a couple of years ago, who was in the choir, established a very successful Renaissance Late series, for example. And we also have just more infrequent but very great and amazing orchestral concerts, which you can get involved in if you play an orchestral instrument. And a few members of the choir have tried conducting in those as well, so it's quite exciting, really. And I want to stress that really there is an opportunity for every skill level and every instrument and every genre as well. It's true that we have, as part of the Music Society, there's a high focus on classical things, but there is also a jazz band in John's, for example, and also I know people are up to all sorts of other genres. We had, for example, traditional bagpipes in a concert last year. So really, there's a huge range, and it's quite easy just to put on things on your own, just by contacting people who are interested in playing music together. And we have really good music facilities at John's, with 4 baby grand or grand pianos that I know about, and 4 practice rooms in the Fisher building, the new music room, which is larger for just concerts and more important ensemble practice, and the old Divinity School, which is usually used more for performance. performances. So yeah, that's about it. I would be very happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hi, so now we've got 3 alumni who are going to just tell you a little bit about what they've done in their musical lives following on from St John's and how their experiences as choral scholars influence their future careers.
Hi there, I'm Julian Gregory. I was a choral scholar at St John's 2009-2012. I studied music, and now I am a member of the King Singers, an international a cappella touring group.
Hello, I'm Will Ashford. I studied music at St John's, where I sang as a tenor choral scholar. I'm now an opera and theatre director based in London.
My name is Sam Oladende and I am from London. I was a tenor choral scholar at St John's, a while ago now, but let's not talk about quite how long ago it was. And while I was at St John's, I studied law, which is, I think, an unusual subject to choose as a choral scholar, but that's what I did, so there you go. After I graduated, I qualified as a solicitor and I worked in a big international law firm in London and New York for a few years. And then a couple years ago, I decided to pursue a career in acting, which is what I do now. So I am an actor on the West End, primarily in shows like The Book of Mormon, Come From Away, and the original London cast of Hamilton. So yeah.
Hello, my name's Hugh Cutting. I'm a countertenor and I was at St John's as a choral scholar between 2015 and 2019. And now I'm at the Royal College. I'm just about to finish my master's and start the opera course next year, and looking to launch a career as a professional singer, as a soloist, as an opera singer.
My time as a choral scholar at John's was incredible and has had a huge impact on my life. For a start, there's the level of musicianship that you develop at St John's, which is incredible, just amazing, and that's especially true if you want to be a performer professionally or as a hobby or just somehow be in the creative arts.
In my line of work as an opera director, my time in the choir was invaluable. For me, I was imbibing how to run a rehearsal well and how to communicate your ideas effectively to orchestras and singers, and of course to the audience as well.
A lot of people think that it's only relevant if you want to be a classical singer, but that's just not true. It's important and it's helpful if you want to be a conductor, a composer, a producer, an instrumentalist, whatever. It can be a really, really helpful tool.
I think the warm sense of musicianship, as I say, but also learning to sing to the level that the choral scholars get to do is something very unique to St John's.
It's a very expressive way of communicating through your voice, which, as I say, isn't held, and it's not. It's always human. I think that's the thing about St John's. It's always coming from the soul.
That sense of fun in rehearsals. Every rehearsal was something you look forward to, and I think I try to bring that into my work as a director. Reading a room well, knowing what people need or want, and being able to get the best out of people.
The choir has such a strong identity in Andrew. The care that he has just sort of trickles through the gents, and there's a big feeling of mutual responsibility towards the music and each other, which is quite unusual.
I think having that structure every day of a musical commitment at this highest level to look forward to gave a sort of added sense of purpose to my being at university. Even during the sort of the tougher times when the academic work got really, really intense, or else just commitments of, all sorts of extracurricular things just piling up, actually somehow having that focus every day, same time, same day, a bit of a routine, really helped. It's weird sort of support mechanism.
Being a St John's Choral Scholar is incredibly helpful because of the soft skills that you develop while you're doing the Choral Scholarship. You know, it sounds cliche to say, but I really do think it's true, and I didn't appreciate it until after I had left, that being a Choral Scholar had made me a more disciplined person, a better team player, a better leader, you know, and it made me really calm under stressful situations. And that's, I think, one of the most important things that I developed while I was at St John's. You know, because of the way that a choral scholarship works, you're constantly throwing these exciting challenges one after the other. It could be, you know, read this random music that you've never seen before and perform it to some people. It's perform in front of 2,000 people, or perform in front of the Queen, like we did in my first year. It was like bonkers. But because all of these challenges are thrown at you, as well as the challenge of having to do this really intense choral scholarship, you know, alongside a, you know, really challenging degree, you suddenly become really good at handling situations that are thrown at you. So then once you leave St John's and you're in, you know, the big wide world, right? And, you know, as a lawyer, people are like, oh, stand up and do this speech in front of court. Or as an actor, you know, perform this solo in front of 5,000 people. You're just really used to handling anything that people throw at you.
The amount of new music we got to do, and the pushing of boundaries, which has influenced me a great deal. So, you know, we were doing pieces by Jonathan Harvey or Nico Muhly or whoever, and a lot of living composers too. And that malleability of the score interested me, and that's why I tend to work in contemporary opera.
St John's was an incredibly informative time for me, both as a choral scholar and also my childhood years as a chorister. What I learnt about community, teamwork, a really strong sense of musicianship, and all those kind of choral skills that St John's particularly excels at have been invaluable for not only my career now, my job in a cappella group, but also during my high school years, university, and then on to my postgraduate studies as well.
It's been the anchor, really, of my professional life.
So yeah, I'm going to stop speaking now because I'm boring, and you guys are going to apply, right? Good.
Well, thank you so much to all of them for that wonderful little section and all the kind things they've said. Now, I'm pleased to say we've got quite a lot of questions now. We've got 6 questions, I think. So, first one. They've moved, so I can't see them all now. What sort of repertoire and structure does the daily evensong entail? Could I ask Ali to answer that one?
Ali, a second year geographer at Trinity Hall. So structure of evensong. I mean, I suppose we've got like responses, can pretty much similar text every day, and then anthem as well, which is something always a bit different. I would say, you know, one of the great, as this kind of been referred to already, but one of the great things about John's is the kind of breadth of repertoire that we're able to get through. I mean, partly, I suppose, because the boys are so good, they can kind of take on quite ambitious music. So we're certainly not kind of held back in that regard. And yeah, we do like really exciting stuff. So as Andrew's mentioned, we do lots of commissions, like once or twice a term. I'm not quite sure what it is, but we'll do commissions often by people within college. For the Advent service, we'll do commissions for, we'll do a new commission each year for that. And yeah, so it just means we've got like a real, like lots of contemporary stuff alongside kind of like the classics, I suppose. So yeah, it's never boring, and it's always nice to be able to, like, you know, start the term and there's a few things on the music list that you have no idea, not even like come across them before, and then like really get into them, like really enjoy them. And I'm just thinking back to the last term that we've just done, or currently in, I suppose. One of our own choral scholars or lay clerks wrote a piece for us, which I think was probably maybe the highlight, like one of the highlights of the term for me and for lots of people, because it was like great to like really like really get into the music, and yeah, it was great, like really rewarding stuff. So yeah, so John's we're not just singing like the classics. It's not just like Dyson and Stanford and stuff. It's like a huge range, and that's kind of one of the things I love about it, I suppose.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Ali. Now, next, I'll just say to my colleagues, we probably need to be a little bit quicker in the answers because we've got quite a lot of them, so we don't run out of time. But second question: the choir has a quite extensive discography of recordings. Are there any albums recorded by the choir that you would recommend we listen to first to get an accurate taste of the choral experience at St John's? So, how about James for that one?
Hello, I'm James. I'm one of the organists here at St John's, and I was an undergrad here for 3 years, and I've just stayed on for an extra year. In terms of recordings, that's a really good question. So obviously there have been some of the larger projects we've undertaken as a choir, things like the Jonathan Harvey disc and the Michael Finnessy disc. But if I could give any kind of recommendation, I'd listen to some of the recordings that we've done of just some of the sort of day-to-day evensong and sort of Eucharist repertoire. And there's lots of that. So we've got discs such as The Call and Locussiste. And Locussiste is great because it's got stuff from the last 150 years, and that sort of romantic 20th century repertoire is the kind of stuff that's real core of the music we sing here at St John's. And one of the other things we've been doing a lot more recently, in addition to that, is putting out lots of live recordings. So recordings of pieces from live Advent Carol services and also from the Ash Wednesday service we did live in 2019. So yeah, so if you listen to those, you get a real kind of realistic picture of what it actually is like to hear and to sing a service in St John's Chapel. So I'd go with some of those. Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks, James. Right, next one. How does the choir commitment coincide with rugby? That's very specific. So I'm going to ask Louis to answer that. Louis is a big footballer, but I expect he knows about rugby as well. Are you there, Louis? Let's see. You don't want me talking about rugby.
Hi. Hi, yeah, thank you, Andrew. I'm a tenor in the choir and I studied music. Yeah, and I was also quite keen on my football. Basically, how it works when you get to St John's, these sort of self-run college community, student-run college community that will hold a big sports open day. It won't clash with choir because it's on a Saturday. We have evensong later Saturday, and you just go to the playing fields, which are really nice, and you just like having taster sessions of rugby, football, all the other sports, netball, lacrosse, and you can just basically just sign up for them, and you come. And then if you really want to get committed into a sport, you can go to training sessions, which would be kind of midweek things. And I think I'm right in saying it certainly was for football anyway, but I think rugby's kind of the same deal. Is that there'll be a match, like the fixtures are generally on either a Saturday or a Sunday. So if it's Saturday, you're kind of in the clear, and there may be just the odd match on a Sunday at 10 a.m, which you won't be able to make because we have Eucharist. But generally, it's sort of a 12 noon kickoff or 2 p.m, which you can get to. And I basically did football throughout my time at the college. And I even had time to run the Gents FC team, which is a lot of fun. You don't need any standard of football. It's just a bit of a laugh. But there's certainly enough time to not only play the sports but fit in socially with your team and with the choir. It's all very manageable and good fun.
That's that. Thanks, Louis. Now, I'm going to take the next two questions together. I'm just a bit concerned we're going to get over time if we're not careful. So I'm going to give the next two questions to Richard, if that's all right. The first is, how do Erasmus years work with being in the choir if someone is studying modern languages? And the second one is, did you find that you required any leniency with choir commitment around final exams? So I'm going to give them both to Richard because he's a linguist and he's just done his finals.
So regarding the Erasmus question, no, there will always be a space back for you when you come back for your 4th year. That's sort of factored into the preparations for the subsequent years. And actually, I find that I found that it was really nice knowing that I was coming back to the choir and I would have some friendly faces there, because one of the sad things about languages is that a lot of your friends will have graduated, but the choir is that one constant that keeps you going. So that was a really nice thing, particularly with the pandemic situation. It was nice to know that I was coming back to a solid family. For the second question, regarding finals, so for the most part, people are fine with sort of the exam and choir balance, because actually choir provides that break that you need for revision. For me, I think I would have probably gone insane had I not had choir. I get stressed very easily, and it was very nice to come back to go to choir every day and just, step away from the exams very briefly. For a time. But that being said, Andrew is of course very understanding. The welfare of us gents is essentially the most important thing to Andrew. And so, if there is a reason why you may need to miss a service or anything, you can talk to Andrew, and he's incredibly empathetic and understanding. So don't be concerned. Essentially, your welfare is essentially essentially is the most important thing, without a shadow of a doubt.
Brilliant. Thanks, Richard. There are 2 little questions which I'm just going to answer myself, if that's all right. One, does a music choral scholarship aid entry into Cambridge at all? Well, I wish the answer was yes. Sadly, it doesn't actually make a difference with that. We choose the choral scholars from within the people who have got into the university academically. So you do still need to do the same entrance exams as everybody else. And Oliver has asked, do you think there might be a space available for a tenor in 2023? I can tell you yes, there definitely will. Now, we've just got time for one more question at this stage, and then we'll come to others later if we can. So I'm going to ask James now to answer, to kind of combine 2 questions. So there's one about whether choral scholars integrate well into other musical ensembles. And then there's another one about whether there are many opportunities for students to perform concertos with orchestra in any of the big concerts during the year. So over to James now, if I may.
Hello again. So first of all, with college music, yes, of course, the choral scholars integrate really well into everything. I mean, the choral scholars are such a massive part of, first of all, the number of students taking music in college, but also a massive part of the sort of musical life that goes on in college. But I think, as Aïda said, the St John's is a massively sort of varied. There are so many people here, some of whom do music, some of whom don't, that play all sorts of different instruments and sing and stuff. And there's such a fantastic sort of atmosphere for people getting together and doing bits of chamber music or putting on a concert here or there. And one thing I always found amazing about being here in Cambridge generally, rather than just at St John's, was, how amazing it is for kind of student-led ensembles and stuff. And if you want to put a concert on or something or do something, you can make it happen. And people are always really excited to do stuff. I was very lucky in my final year to put on a performance of the St John Passion. And that was great fun because I managed to get lots of singers in from lots of different choirs, as well as from St John's, and lots of different instrumentalists in as well. So it's all one sort of big community, and that's not just the people studying music. There's and then also the concerto question. Yeah, of course, there are so many opportunities for all that, and it's nothing to do with people taking music as the course. I mean, people doing music, of course, can perform a concerto if they want, you know, maybe as part of their degree at some point if they wanted. But I mean, in terms of concerts and stuff, you know, it's absolutely anyone can do that. And we've been very lucky in the past in St John's Chapel to have lots of music society concerts and things where we've managed to get a full orchestra in and done all sorts of amazing concerti with all sorts of people from around the place doing so many different subjects. So yeah, it's really not limited to anything.
Brilliant. Thank you, James. Well, look, we've managed most of the questions. There are two at the bottom of the chat, which we haven't done yet, but I'll try to find time for them later on. So I think now we're going to have just another little short performance. And this is the gents singing at what we call our May concert, which happens in the middle of June. Happened last week. And this is the gents singing the Bare Necessities.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, all of Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder of my big home. The bees are buzzing in the trees to make some honey just for me. When you look under the rocks and plants and take a glance at the fancy ants, then maybe try a few. You bet I do, and you're gonna love the way they tickle. The bare necessities of life will come to you. Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I'm in the bare necessities. That's why a bear can rest and eat the simple bare necessities of life. Now, when you pick a paw or a prickly pear, and you prick a raw paw, well, next time beware. Don't pick the prickly pear by the paw. When you pick a pear, try to use the claw. But you don't need to use the claw if you pick a pear from the big paw. Have I given you? Get with the beat. The bare necessities of life will come to you.
Great. So thank you to the gents for doing that. And now something a little different. It's lovely to welcome Dr. Victoria Harvey, who's our admissions tutor, and she's going to say a little bit about the process for admission to Cambridge.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everybody. I really enjoyed that performance. I'm sorry I had to stop so that you're listening to me now. But one of the things about becoming a choral scholar at St John's is that you need to go through the admissions process first. As Andrew was mentioning earlier, the choral scholarship part of things doesn't actually start until the 15th of February. Well, we've decided who to offer places to and notified you by the end of January. So for those of you who do get through, it's a very busy year, which starts really at the beginning of September, when you need to be submitting all your applications to your teachers so that they can write you references. The official UCAS deadline for Cambridge is the 15th of October. And then from then on, you have assessments. Those tend to take place at the beginning of November. You have interviews in early December. We make our decisions over the Christmas period and let you know by the end of January. And then your choral scholarship application starts in February. So you sort of need to brace yourself and get on top of things as soon as you can. And certainly by the beginning of the summer this year, you need to have done all the fundamental things like chosen your subject. One thing to note about St John's Choral Scholars is we don't accept choral scholarship applications for students on veterinary medicine courses or on architecture courses. A couple of the other colleges have slightly different subject combinations that they don't accept, so that's one of the things you need to check. But choosing a subject is probably one of the most important things. And the most important thing is not to do the subject that you think you ought to do or you think you're going to get in by doing, but choose the subject which you genuinely love, you genuinely have a passion for, and you can show on that personal statement that you've actually made an effort to do some things outside of your school curriculum, because that's the kind of thing that's going to impress the directors of studies. They want evidence that you know what you're coming to study, you enjoy what you're coming to study, and you're well prepared to come to Cambridge. So these are the kind of things that we're looking for. One of the other things that people always worry about is the interview. The interview's fine. You mustn't worry. It should be really enjoyable. You know, if you've chosen the subject you like, going in and talking to people who also love that subject should be a fun experience. So don't worry about the interview. Just make sure you do the work in good time. I'm going to stick around for the next Q&A, so I'm really happy to take as many questions as people want to offer. There's a lot of information on our website about how to choose your subject, how to go about writing your personal statement, what to expect in the assessments and the interviews. Going back to the question earlier, Andrew's absolutely right. You don't get any brownie points for wanting to be a choral scholar, but we do find the choral scholars that come through are very, very, very good. All that experience you've had singing with your music, it makes you a really, really intellectually well-rounded person who will fly through these interviews, I'm absolutely sure. So do feel confident in your abilities and in the strength that it will add to the academic side of your application. I think that's Andrew coming back. Is that you coming back, Andrew? Well, I will stay around and answer any questions that anybody might have. While we wait for any questions and we wait for Andrew to come back, does anybody have... so if you become a choral scholar, do you receive accommodation within St John's College? Yes, you do if you're a student at St John's College. And the accommodation's really exciting. There's lots of different types of accommodation. The first years tend to go in crypts, which is the more modern building, these lovely big windows.
Well, thank you so much for that, Victoria. I'm just going to, while people type up some other questions if they want to, I'm just going to say a tiny bit about auditions, which is the next thing on our list. People sometimes ask me what's involved in an audition. It's good to bring along one or possibly two contrasting songs. Don't try to do incredibly difficult things or things that are too high for you or too low for you or too fast for you or whatever. I'd much rather hear somebody sing a relatively simple thing really beautifully, rather than a thing that's just a little bit beyond them at the moment. So choose with care something that will show off the best parts of your voice and your range. We also do some ear tests during the auditions, you know, singing back the notes of chords, that kind of thing, perhaps singing back a short melody. And we usually ask for a little bit of sight reading as well. I mean, don't get too het up about sight reading. It's difficult to know the right thing to say. There are some people who are absolutely fantastic choral scholars who are really not very good at all at sight reading. And, you know, if they're fantastic singers, they're still extremely valuable. Sometimes we have people in the choir who maybe their voices are less mature, but they are brilliant at sight reading, and you know, we value those as well. And there are some who are really good at both. But I would say the earlier you can start practicing your sight reading, sight singing, the more time you will have to improve it, and it's well worth doing that. But don't worry if you find it difficult. There are various things that you can do prior to auditions to help you get used to this kind of world, you know, like going on choral courses in the summer and that sort of thing. But the most important is do please make an appointment to come up and see me as early as you can. And, you know, in some cases I hear people sing 2 or 3 or even 4 times before they actually do their formal audition. And it's lovely to see the progress that's been made. And sometimes people sing better in one audition than another, and then I can just remember the good one and I can forget the less good one. So give yourself lots of chances by coming up early. Now then, I think we are going to go now to a second question and answer session. So can I ask Victoria, which is the biggest department by nature of the number of students taking that subject?
Well, for St John's, we've got a few that take over 10 each year, which is quite large subject-wise in Cambridge. We're one of the biggest colleges, which helps. It means we do have quite large cohorts. I would say the sciences probably take the most. So medicine, physical natural sciences, biological natural sciences, law. These are the kind of subjects which have a larger intake. And then we have a huge range of small subjects. So Anglo-Saxon, Norse and Celtic, Asian and Middle Eastern studies, these ones that you might not have actually had the opportunity to study at school. They're really interesting and exciting subjects. You can do lots to have a look at what they're all about, do a bit of reading if that's what takes your fancy. One thing I would say is don't try and apply to a college by the stats, because they change every single year and quite a large number of people try and figure out which is the best chance based on the last 3 years. And of course, so many people do that. It completely skews the statistics for the next few years. So really be very genuine about your application, and that's my best advice.
Brilliant. Thanks, Victoria. Now, other questions. So somebody's asked, can you practice your instruments, e.g. singing and cello, in your accommodation? Basically the answer to those things is yes, you can. If it's, you know, drum kit or something very noisy, or the organ, then there might be a different room where you do it. But yes, mostly you can practice there. What else was there? Are the pre-audition meetings similar to the actual audition with regards to sight reading? Yes. The pre-audition meetings are they're not formal. I just try to make it relaxed, and sometimes if there's time, you know, if there's an aspect of your singing or your sight reading or interval recognition or whatever that you find a bit challenging, you know, we might spend a few minutes talking about it, and I'll try and give you some pointers to help you when you get back home. I can attempt to help you with anything you'd like me to during those sessions. Now let me see. I think we've done. Do you still receive the allowances for singing lessons if you study at a different college to the one wherein you're a choral scholar? The simple answer to that is yes. We make absolutely no distinction between people who are members of St John's and people who are members of a different college. There's quite a lot of money that choral scholars are paid for performance fees for singing in concerts and recordings and things. it's usually a minimum of £1,500 a year, and that's the same for absolutely everybody. And we give regular singing lessons free of charge to all singers, whichever college, and everything on tours is paid for everybody, and food and accommodation, etc. So yeah, it's no less good financially if you're in a different college. So I think we've done most of the questions. There are just two further up, which I think I might, or three. We've done a combination. So why don't we have? Would there be opportunities for singers from more of a music theatre background than choral singing? So I might ask Ali that one, and then I will finish by asking Louis what is his favourite piece of music to perform with the choir. And then we've done all the questions. So Ali, first of all, music theatre.
Cool. Yeah, so we've had people in the past that have kind of fused the choir stuff and their time doing choir stuff and time doing musical theatre stuff. So last year we had Lawrence, who was an alto in the choir, who did loads and loads and loads of musical theatre stuff. I think he did something like he was involved in something like 40 productions in his time in Cambridge, or something ridiculous. Certainly, like, these two skill sets, although different, obviously big overlap there. And that, like going into it, I think obviously they are different skills. Like learning how to sing a psalm is very different to learning how to sing, something in musical theatre. But by no means is that impossible. I'm sure Andrew would agree that gents arrive, by no means the finished product. We've got really good singing teachers when we're here, and you learn so quickly that actually, even if you don't think you've got the skills necessarily from day one, like you learn them so quickly. So that shouldn't be a reason to not apply, certainly. And yeah, lots of people in the past have shown that you're able to fuse the two things. So Sam Oladende, who we heard from earlier, obviously now singing in Hamilton, or was singing in Hamilton. So yeah, I wouldn't say that that's a factor to not apply, certainly.
Brilliant, thanks Ali. So last question then, Louis, you're on. What is your favourite piece of music to perform with the choir? The standard answer to that, of course, is your favourite piece of music is whichever one you're performing at the moment. I'm sure that's what he's going to say.
Yeah, that's right. I think so. There's a lot of sort of very standard choral repertoire which you may or may not have done, and that's all great. But my favourite thing to perform is the stuff that puts you slightly out of your comfort zone. So it's all the contemporary music that we do, especially when you actually have to do a lot of rehearsing and sort of work towards it as like a project. So we a couple of years ago we were put outside our comfort zones when Andrew commissioned a piece for choir and electronics, which is something that most other choirs probably wouldn't even attempt. But it's just something at John's that we're willing to take on the challenge and try new things. And that was a challenge for all of us. And it actually ended up being one of my favourite pieces. So definitely that. But I'd just like to give a special shout out to the Psalms that we do at St John's. And when I grew up, I thought, oh no, I've got to sing a psalm now. I've never felt more alive in the Psalms at St John's. Reading the text, just the way that Andrew conducts them makes you sort of bleed emotion, really draw the emotion out of, and get and everybody singing the same text together gives a really amazing unifying feeling to the text. It's one of the most amazing feelings in the world.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Louis. So we were aiming to finish at 5:30, and it's 6 minutes after that, so we must wind up now. But we've covered a great deal of ground in a short time. So I just want to say enormous thank you to all of my colleagues in their different places around the college, wherever you are. Thank you so much for being part of this, and thank you very, very much to all of you who are listening at the other end. I hope you found it useful. We've recorded the webinar, so if anybody couldn't be here now, or if you want to watch bits of it again, you will be able to do so. We'll send out details. Just one further little reminder that anytime you want to fix an informal meeting with me, do get in touch. My email address, I don't know if it's been published up there, but an323@cam.ac.uk. There we are. Brilliant. Thank you, James. And also St John's College will be hosting 2 college open days on Friday the 8th and Saturday the 9th of July. So if you're interested in discussing things in terms of which academic subjects to do, that would be the day for it. And I think there's a link somewhere which you'll be sent to find out more about that. But thank you all so much for joining us, and I'm just sorry not to be able to see your faces, but I really hope to be able to meet you in person very soon. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed finding out about St John's. Thanks.